Yeah. Hi. Hey. Weird start to the show. Welcome to the Dating Unsettled show where we dare to date differently. I'm your host, JoyOfodu, and today's episode is about hardballing as a dating method. That's that hardball. That's that. Yeah. That stuff to make it, yeah, with strength. Absolutely. Today I actually forgot that it was Tuesday. It's not my fault. It's not that I don't care about you. I do. I love you. God. I love you. It's that it's coming out of a holiday weekend. That'll always mess you up. But let's talk about hardball. You get me and hardball for maybe 35 minutes, maybe more, maybe less. It's going to be a casual, fun one today, okay? You're probably listening to this on a Wednesday or Thursday, if I know you, unless you've been patiently waiting for this all day. Here we go, hardballing. All right, so I have a little agenda or whatever, but when I meet a man for the first time, I really like to hardball. Like, let's not dance around our compatibility. Let's not maybe and see if this works. I know that this is like a super type A thing to say, but I have a lot of big questions and I politely demand answers. What is hardballing? Let's get into the definition. It was coined apparently by a Logan Urey. Urey, the director of relationship science at Hinge. How do you get a degree in relationship science? Is that like a social work meets communications type of thing? Meets psychology? You tell me. Meets theology? Help? But the director of relationship science at Hinge in 2022 defined it as a new dating term when someone is being clear about their expectations of a relationship, whether you want a serious long term partnership or casual fling. Now, that definition to me is somewhat limited, right? I think that's just the very beginning of the iceberg when we think about what you can hardball about. So maybe that's how it started. Maybe it began as people being clear about, oh, yeah, I'm in it for the long term, the long haul, or I kind of just want a little something for the night, you know what I'm saying? Meet me at the hotel. Maybe it was that at the beginning. But now, hardballing to me, and the way that I used it or use it to date, is uncovering all forms of really tough truths, especially those that are featured on dating profiles, that would help me understand before we even date, before we even sit down to dinner, maybe before we get on a phone call, but often a phone call is the best way to find out if you and I would make it. If we would make it as a couple long term. I know what you're going to say. Oh my God, there's a million other variables. That's not romantic. Well, science isn't always romantic, is it? There are things inside my body, inside my belief system, my behaviors, my background, my culture, my habits, and my future plans and desires, the type of person and the places that I want to be, that don't compute with somebody else's behaviors, habits, science, culture, and where they want to be. So when I say, oh, I need to be with someone who's liberal leaning, that's a me ting. It may not be a you ting. You might be willing to find that out by day 5. How do you vote? Not me. I got to know. I need to be with the black man. I need, which obviously, hopefully, you can see from the profile. Are people blackfishing out here on dating app profiles? If they are, I would love to hear about it. But, whether it's race, gender, when I say status, to me, like, I think I've talked about this before on Show Some Love, Tally's podcast, but like a man's current employment status, not as important to me. I more so just want to know, are you working? Are you unemployed? Are you pursuing work? Are you a student? Are you saving? Are you a citizen? Are you not? Like, all of these things are questions for me. And when you're hardballing, I don't think that it means that anything, any answer that the other person gives outside of what you prefer means that you automatically have to kick them off the roster or not date them. It just means that you take it into consideration. So that's me. That's hardballing, and the way that I kind of used it. Does it work? Is a huge question. Does it work? Yeah, it worked for me. Yeah, it thank you. Thank you, on demand cheering audience. It absolutely worked for me. It helped me find the love that I was looking for sooner. I think that you can go without hardballing. What is that called? Soft balling? Soft serve ice cream? I said ice cream with a B. It's almost time to go to sleep. No, I think dating without hardballing could work. My concern is that you just spend a lot of time in an uncertain situation. And if you're anything like me, uncertain situations create a little bit of anxiety. I like to minimize my anxiety. I like to get the facts straight. I demand honesty. I demand the truth in all of my dating situations. I don't always get it. Some people feel like they don't owe you the truth in dating. But for me, when it comes to romantic partnership, that's what I'm looking for. That's a priority. So hardballing was a must for me. I started hardballing later. Like it wasn't as soon as I started swiping and dating, but after a couple swipes and after dating a little bit, seeing what you like, what you don't like, really testing outside of your norms. Because I think that's another thing. Sometimes people don't hardball because they're okay with the uncertainties or the unknowns of life or what the other person might contribute. That's cute. I'm a busy lady, especially when I was single, when I was swiping. It was like full time grad student, full time employee in technology, full time daughter, full time sister, full time person, all on my own. I had my own hobbies and activities. I was a friend. I was a business owner. I had started producing content and creating online. It was like, this is not the type of situation that lends itself well to accepting additional uncertainty. I had enough. And I think it's okay. I think it's okay to say that you don't want crazy, wild, gambly, risky variables. Dating is risky inherently. Putting yourself out there is risky inherently. But hardballing can help you to reduce some of that risk, to reduce some of that waste. Oh, look at you, you little recycler. Hardballing is environmentally friendly. That's one less gas guzzle. That's one less drive to a restaurant or a museum or a park that you don't want to be at because you found out something non-negotiable. Ooh, God, we hitting the table. We're just in this studio. You found out something that is non-negotiable for you about the other person that means that you don't want to date, you don't want to proceed. And I think that's great. I think it's really smart. So it saves the environment, it saves your time, it reduces your anxiety because it's reducing the unknown. I know what you're thinking. This is like, oh, Joy, all of this is good and well, hinging upon if the other person is actually being honest with you, which I hope they are. For me, when it comes to dating, I like to believe the best in people. Actually, when it comes to all people, I like to believe the best in people in dating situations. And I like to walk around as if everyone's being honest with me. I will use my intuition and my good sense and my womanly sense to be like, all right, this is cap, right? This doesn't feel right. And I can always interrogate and question. But if you walk around in a forever state of paranoia, hardballing is not going to work for you. Dating is not going to work for you. If you treat every man, woman, person as if they are lying to you at all times, you're going to have a miserable time of dating. It's almost like the you are what you eat or you are what you think. Like you almost are what you believe of other people. So if you believe other people are liars and guarded and selfish, you might start walking around lying, guarded, and selfish. I preferred when I was dating to be optimistic, positive, and believe that other people would do me the honesty of being honest with me, even in ways that I wasn't willing to see. And that might be a whole nother podcast in itself. When you're hardballing, if you don't accept the answers the other person is putting forward as true, because you want it to be something else, because you thought they were some other kind of person and you believe a different outcome is possible if you just wait, if they just lived in a different city, if you just give them more time, if they just finished this degree program, if they had more money, if they had a different cultural background. Oh, that's miserable. So with hardballing, we must, friends, unsettlers, people, we must accept the truth as we see it, as they present it. It's like, there are a lot of phrases and sayings that relate to this, but it's like, don't let somebody tell you about them twice. So don't let somebody tell you they don't want you twice. Don't let somebody tell you any type of truth. Like just take it as is. Whatever they give you, accept. And I think we'll all be much happier for it. So hardballing worked for me. How did I put this into practice with my partner? I'm sure you want to know. With my partner, I asked him things that were non-evident but he was already checking off my hardballing questions before I had to open my mouth and ask. So when I saw on his profile, and later we unearthed this in conversation, okay, cool, he's Catholic and Christian, just like me. That was like a hardball question for me. The type of age. Are we okay? Is everything all right at home? The age that he was is a hardball thing for me. I could see that, and that turned out to be true. Because trust me, they don't. They're not always honest. But holding honesty, his age is true. His race or cultural background, he's West African like me. He's from Cameroon. I'm from Nigeria. So that's kind of a hardball thing for me, just being black. I'm trying to think, what are my other hardball stuff? Oh, drug habits, drinking, smoking, political leanings or beliefs. Like all these things between me and the guy I wanted to date, I could see a lot of these things either indicated in his profile or based on what he told me as we were getting to know each other. And I'm like, yes, those knock off all my hard balls. And there are other things, of course, and I'm sure there will be items for you that I'm not thinking of. But I think those are some of the basics. It's the things that you would find on a dating app profile, but you hardball when you're trying to figure them out. You go in hard and fast before that first date even happens to figure out if some of the non negotiables are there. Hardballing is, to me, most important when you're looking for that long term committed monogamous relationship. I'm not dibbling in polyamory. We'll probably get somebody on the show that dibbles or dabbles in that type of polyamorous engagement. So I don't know if this applies. I can only speak to monogamous relationship commitments because that's what I was looking for. And when you're looking for that, you want it to go the long way. I've seen a lot of couples break up because, oh, he believed this, but she believed this. He wanted this, but she wanted this. It's like, why would you even get into something that you know eventually your roads are gonna, right? Unless that's an understanding you have. With me, when I get into relationships, I want to get in and stay in. I don't enter a committed relationship and walk around and parade this person to my family, to my friends, to my neighbors, to my. Does your brain ever stop thinking? Does your brain ever just. Oh, God, there are cobwebs up there. But God help me, we're back on track. Hardballing. Let's just talk about it working for me. We know it worked for me. Let's talk about how guys reacted. Uh, I asked my boyfriend how he feels about hardballing. To him, it's like if you're being gentle about it and if you're open also about what you want to share and you're taking it real easy and smooth, like he was cool with it. He was personally not for really aggressive hardballing. And there's kind of a funny example I want to share with you from social media about how this went recently. So there was a young woman by the name of Chrissy. That's all we're going to call her because that's all that we have. And I just want to give her credit. I'm not trying to out her. Don't come for Chrissy. Don't go looking for Chrissy. But Chrissy was on what looks like Hinge. And she shared with somebody that she matched with a questionnaire. So the person who posted this, we're assuming that this is his real account and these are his real screenshots. His name is Rob at Hawthorne _ Rob4. So Rob asked Chrissy, you down for a call later? She said, we could do that. You mind filling out a questionnaire for me first, though? Rob said, oh, Lord, I'll try. I ain't making no promises. Chrissy says, you can do it, winky face, and sends him a Google form. This was called Dating Compatibility Q&A. Hey there, let's skip the small talk, shall we? It's only 26 questions. You've got this. I'm rooting for you. And she actually sent a Q&A. The very beginning of it is a yes or no hardball question. So for those comms nerds and survey design people, the first question on the survey, I'm going to see if my camera is going to show it. It's not going to show it, but it says, are you married? Yes, no, or separated? And so I'm sure depending on the answer to that, Chrissy is messing with you or she's not. This questionnaire continues for 26 questions. It asks things like, do you believe in marriage? What's your highest level of education? How would you describe your financial employment situation, living situation? Do you have kids? Do you want kids? If you had a kid who was LGBTQ plus, would you, kick them out? Blah, blah, blah. Are you a person of faith? Are you a person of faith? Are you serving? Are you close with your family? What's your zodiac sign? So Chrissy had all these questions, sent it in a Google form. Rob was not with it. Rob said, yeah, I'm not doing all that. Chrissy said, take care, which I love that response. Can we just take a moment? can we just appreciate that if you're doing something wild like hardballing in a form and the other person's not for it, that you're just willing to give up and say, okay, next. So Chrissy was clearly, and Chrissy explained her logic. So let me just read it. And sorry, I'm assuming her gender, but Chrissy explained the logic. I figured it was a clever way to cut through some of the BS when meeting someone new. If a person won't take the time to answer a few multiple choice questions, then how much effort would they really be willing to put into getting to know me or building something with me? The idea is to find a like-minded person ready to date with intention. Okay, Chrissy. So that was a really bold move. And I don't know that I personally would recommend hardballing this way. I think this works for the reasons that Chrissy mentioned, that in a personal way, you can kind of see, hey, well, if a person's willing to tell me a few short, easy yes, no, or demographic questions about themselves, I might figure out how intentional they are about intentional dating. I think this doesn't work for the reasons of it being somewhat cold, right? It's not going to work with a lot of people. So yes, she sent a form. Yes, she put thought and care into it, but it's probably the same form and the same ask for all the guys that she's looking at. So in that essence, hardballing is not going to be as effective with a wide variety of people because of the delivery of the hardball. I don't think hardballs need to be delivered soft, but I think that they need to be accompanied with something a little human, whether that's your voice, cute voice note, your face, just giving them a little something over flat text so that your intent when you're hardballing is not misconstrued. So I want to talk about what makes it effective and how the guys reacted in my life. I had some guys tell me like, I feel like I'm in an interview. Like nobody wants to hear that. I never want to make anybody feel like they're being interrogated or in an interview or in like a police type situation. Like that's gross. At the same time, maybe that's a little bit of information about the guy for me. Like if I come to you and I'm asking you like really basic questions, confirming what's essentially on your profile, just showing that, hey, I'm really intentional about dating. I'm looking for somebody that's, kind of like this, open to blah, 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 not open to blah, blah, blah. And you can't respect those boundaries and you feel the need to like degrade me or say something negative or try to peg me down because I'm asking you like basic questions, even questions that, again, might already be on your profile. If you are coming at that with negativity, that's information for me. That's me understanding, all right, maybe I don't need to date you. But I've also had other guys react well. I've had guys be like, wow, thanks. Like, I'm glad you're asking me this. I've never, this is the question. This is the response I would get a lot. I would have guys tell me, thank you, or wow, I've never had anyone ask me that before, or I've never had anyone ask me that this early before. And for me, that was good information. These are guys that I would end up going on several dates with. Again, I don't think it makes an unsuccessful dating situation that you don't end up in a committed relationship. The point of dating is not to end up in a committed relationship with the first person you find attractive that meets all your criteria. The point of dating is not even to end up in a committed relationship with the first person you find attractive that meets your criteria and then finds you attractive and meets all their criteria. The point of dating, I think, is to take every single, this is like some relationship science for you. I think the point of dating is to take every single interaction to its logical and comfortable conclusion. It's got to make sense up here. It's got to make sense in here. This is my heart for the camera if it's flipping it. It's got to make sense in here. It's got to make sense everywhere. You want to date as long as you can, as far as you can with each person. And at the moment or point at which it no longer makes sense to date them, you want to say bye-bye. And I consider that a success. If you can end it in a healthy, amicable way, figure out you're not for that person after. It could be during hardballing, could be after. Doesn't matter. But I think cutting it off is healthy and successful too. So keeping all of that in mind, if a man responds affirmatively, negatively, that's success with hardballing. You need to be comfortable with rejection if you're going to use this dating method. You need to be comfortable with a person telling you, you just hit a boundary. I don't like that. I don't like the way you asked it. I don't like these questions. Bop, bop, bop. Get out of my face. I don't want to talk to you. I'm not interested. You need to be comfortable with people losing interest. I don't want to say you need to be comfortable with people cussing you out. That's gross. But you need to be ready that you could get really triggered reaction from trigger happy guys or women or girls or people. All right. Okay. Now that all of the genders are seated on the Iron Throne, let's talk about this. I think if hardballing is going really well, you're determining your compatibility up front, you're saving both people time, and you're also getting a bit more excited to learn something new. Like you're getting real information from the profile. What not to do. What not to do when you're hardballing. I think don't judge the person's answers or react negatively. Almost as if you are, oh, this is marketing science for you for real. Almost as if you're administering a survey. I know that doesn't sound sexy, but it is actually like the polite thing to do. If someone tells you, like, you know, say you want someone who's drug free, they're like, yeah, I smoke every day. Don't go, ugh. You know, don't judge them negatively. You asked a simple question, they give you a simple answer, honest answer, maybe. You know, oh yeah, I smoke every day. It's like, it's not really your business to find that gross or disgusting and express that to them. You are entitled to whatever you feel about the responses you get when hardballing, but it's not your responsibility, nor do I think it's kind to kick that to another person. If you're looking for a guy who is, you know, not a man of faith, you're looking for a girl who's not a girl of faith, not a woman of faith, and she goes, yep, I attend church every day. You know, you don't want to respond, yikes. I just don't think it's nice. I don't have to tell you how to be kind, unsettlers, because I believe that if you're attracted to this show, it's because you're a kind person anyway. So I'm not going to preach to the choir, but I think it's really important to remember as you are walking in your preferences and in your boundaries to not project your preferences as the correct answer when hardballing, because it can make somebody feel like they're being set up, and nobody likes to feel like that. You don't want to feel like that. You don't want to feel like you're being tested. So please try to, like, you know, be kind. I don't want to say be gentle, because it's called hard for a reason, but be gentle. The next thing I think we shouldn't do when hardballing is fight or argue the answers. This is not a debate. This is not a situation where you want to, this isn't Deca, this isn't Mun, this isn't TEDx comment section, right? You are asking to find answers, saying thank you neutrally, and I think moving on. Like, you're taking that information. You can even just take it and evaluate it all later. But this isn't the place to fight. This isn't the place to tell them that they're wrong. This isn't the place to make recommendations on how they can do blah, blah, blah better. This isn't even to like super pressure them. So, you know, if you say, hey, how old are you? And the person's like, I'm 27. Really? Like, no, oh my God. He just told you his age that he wants to share with you. Like, this isn't the place to fight. If you believe the person's lying, you know, if a hardball question for you is like, when's the last time you were in a relationship? And they say, I haven't been on a date in 5 years, right? And you don't believe that, take the information that you don't believe that and keep that with you. Like, the point is to get you hard and fast answers that you can privately judge, and then just say, hey, like, based on our conversation, this wasn't for me. But you don't need to fight them. Don't demand answers also. I would say, even for me, if I was meeting somebody for the first time, they had hardball questions, whether they're the types of questions I would ask or not. Even if I just don't like the way that you asked it, and you go like, I have to know. Like, I demand to know. You need to tell me. Ew. Oh my God. I don't want to date you now. Like, I don't want to date you. So don't press people. You are not, you're not an authority figure in this person's life. Like, you are, I think that you should walk around like you're worthy of respect, but you're not an authority figure. You're not an elected official. You're not an armed whatever. Like, you don't get to demand answers from somebody just because you want to date them, just because you think they're attractive, just because you want them in your life. You don't get to do that. I know that sucks, but you know that. You don't get to. I think that you should really consider who you are to them, which in dating app situations is often a stranger. Like you should consider the consequences of asking these questions and how who you are might influence someone to answer. Okay? Like in hardballing, you are doing two things at once to your self esteem. You are holding yourself high as somebody who is worthy of finding exactly what they are looking for. And you are also keeping yourself humble as a stranger, as a person outside this person's world, who, if you're pressing them for answers, they don't really owe them to you. All that I believe you're owed is basic respect. And the minute you're not getting basic respect, you can walk. You can decide to walk if you don't get your answers in the timeline or tone or honesty that feels comfortable to you. But all they really owe you is basic respect. I think making it an ultimatum situation is really uncomfortable. That would be uncomfortable for anyone of any gender. So when you feel like saying things like, well, I don't date people who don't answer that question, right? Try instead, hey, this topic is really important to me when it comes to romantic dating and building an intentional relationship. I know that we are just at the beginning and we are still strangers, and I respect your privacy, but I would be honored if you would share this with me because I really believe that it will affect our compatibility. I want to be respectful of your time. Can I bring my own sound effects back in here for this? Can we just get a little, maybe even a louder? Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, I ate that. I put that thing down, flip it and reverse it. I've on that one because people need to, maybe they don't need, some people need to understand where you're coming from and the context behind the who, what, when, where, why, how. That's going to encourage some people to respond. This is social science. So this isn't personal opinion or belief, but adding context, maybe even in a briefer way than that. Like what I just shared is a great script for a verbal communication. And as many times, as many opportunities as you get to hardball via face to face communication first, which is the richest medium, then on like a FaceTime, then on the phone, and gosh, texting or voice notes if you absolutely must, though I don't think that's going to go very well. As much as you can get in front of this person, do to ask these hardball questions. And that's a great script for a long conversation. Take it and shorten it, to something like, hey, this topic's really important to me. I think it's going to affect our compatibility and I want to be respectful of your time. Boom. You just gave them 3 pieces of information, 3 pieces of context that they can work with to figure out why you are hardballing. And then once they understand why you're coming from where you're coming from, they're more likely to respond in a way that's open, honest, because they feel safe and they feel safe to be vulnerable. I think what you should do, because we talked about what you shouldn't do when you hardball, but what you should do is be willing to answer any hardball question that you ask. Like, get on video chat, give reach signals, be willing to answer anything. If you're asking this person, like, Chrissy's survey is really bold. I can't say I fully agree with it, but that doesn't matter. She's living her dating life, not me. The question, what's your financial situation? What's your living situation, right? Do you live alone? Do you live with roommates? Those are like questions on her survey. I hope she's willing to answer those. And so if you are designing a hardballing survey or interview or verbal experience, 3D IMAX experience, whatever you're designing, I hope you're willing to answer those same questions. Keep that very same energy. I would be so bent if a man was like, hey, what's your, faith practice? And I'm like, oh, I'm Christian. Well, what about you? And he's like, I don't like to answer. What do you mean? But man's like, how many boyfriends have you had? I'm like, oh, only, now I've had two. If I was like, yeah, only one before this. How many, girlfriends have you had? And he's like, I prefer not to say. Oh. Well, then I prefer not to go on with you. But ching. Oh God. Okay, we gotta get it together. I just think you should be willing to answer anything that you ask. It's basic human decency. Next would be to introduce hardballing before you actually start it. So that's what I'm leaving you with. You know, as you are hardballing, as you are going into this game of being tough, being aggressive, trying to build an intentional relationship, getting ready for that rejection, I think it helps to remember that the other person hasn't lived in your body. They haven't maybe experienced all the rejections that you've experienced the way that you have. Maybe they haven't been on the dating apps as long as you. So don't make the mistake of bringing all of your, because I did this. That's the only reason I feel like I can talk about it, is because I messed up on it too. Don't bring all your pent up, paranoid, protective, discouraged, disgruntled dating app energy to a brand new match, a brand new person, a brand new situation, and expect them to just get why you are asking deeply personal questions before you even sit down to a date. They may not get it because they may not have lived your experience. I hear that guys experience rejection. I hear girls experience rejection. I hear that non binary people experience rejection on dating apps. And I did too. But that doesn't mean that the person sitting across from you is automatically going to understand your who, what, when, where, why. So, as you hardball unsettlers, I wish you luck. I hope that you are careful. I hope that you are sensitive. I also hope that you accept what you hear. I hope that you have the courage to turn down things that are just not going to work. And that's why we're doing this in the first place. We're not hardballing so that we can hear something that makes us deeply uncomfortable and proceed in it or ignore it or mask it. Trust your gut, trust your body, be open to hearing answers that you wouldn't otherwise, and also be patient to receiving some of the answers. But it's your timeline, it's your dating life. You are the one who is daring to date differently and living in your body. So you know what feels good to you. You know what feels god awful. And if you don't know, I can't say that now you know, but if you don't know, you're perhaps going to know in the near future. Thanks for listening, Unsettlers. Follow Dating Unsettled for weekly episodes wherever podcasts are found so you don't miss an episode of your new favorite show. If you can't get enough of me, subscribe to my newsletter at datingunsettled.com. DM me your dating stories on Instagram at Dating Unsettled. I want to know how it's going for you. I'll see you next week. And then just pretend that the little jingle that you heard right now came at the end of the, yep, you got it. See you next week.
Dating Unsettled.